The Helix Alliance's first transmission reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. Dr. Marcus Rivera was having his third cup of coffee in the radio astronomy lab at the Arecibo Observatory when the signal patterns changed from their usual cosmic background noise to something unmistakably artificial. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed it. Humanity was no longer alone. The message was elegant in its simplicity. We come in peace and partnership. What followed was a data packet containing specifications for a quantum communications array that would allow for real-time communication between Earth and the Alliance's representatives. Dr. Rivera and his team worked tirelessly for 3 months to construct the device, and when they finally activated it, the face that appeared on their screens was both alien and oddly familiar. High Commissioner Nexus of the Helix Alliance was a tall, crystalline being whose translucent body seemed to shift colors with each movement. "Greetings, people of Earth," the alien's words came through perfectly translated. "We represent a coalition of over 300 spacefaring civilizations, and we wish to extend an invitation to join our prosperous trading network." The United Earth Council, hastily formed to handle this first contact situation, was cautiously optimistic. Commander Maya Patel, the Council's chief negotiator, sensed something off about the Alliance's overly generous offers. "They're promising too much," she told her assistant during a private meeting. "Advanced medical technology, fusion power, faster than light travel, all in exchange for what they call minimal resource contributions." Maya's suspicions were confirmed when Dr. Rivera discovered an encrypted portion of the original transmission. Working with Dr. James Corey, the leading expert in quantum cryptography, they decoded what appeared to be internal communications between Alliance ships. The truth was devastating. Earth wasn't being invited into a trading network. It was being set up for systematic resource extraction. The Alliance's strategy was centuries old. They would approach developing civilizations with promises of advanced technology, sign them into legally binding agreements, and then exploit loopholes to strip mine entire solar systems. Their legal framework was impenetrable, designed by thousands of years of interstellar lawyers to create the perfect trap. But they had never encountered humans before. Maya immediately began stalling the negotiations, requesting clarifications on increasingly minute details of the proposed treaties. Meanwhile, Dr. Rivera and Dr. Corey led a secret initiative to reverse engineer what they could from the quantum communications array. Every transmission from the Alliance, every demonstration of their technology, became a learning opportunity. The Alliance's patience began to wear thin. High Commissioner Nexus's crystalline form darkened during transmissions, their colors shifting to deeper, more threatening hues. "We have been more than accommodating," they stated during one particularly tense session. "Either Earth signs the agreement within the next planetary rotation, or we will be forced to consider you uncooperative." That night, Maya called an emergency session of the United Earth Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. All watching this, she took the podium. "They think they're dealing with naive primitives," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "But while they've been trying to pressure us into their trap, we've been laying our own." She nodded to Dr. Rivera, who projected a hologram of the data they'd gathered. "Every time they transmitted, we weren't just listening to their words, we were analyzing their technology, their methods, their weaknesses. They've been so focused on their legal trap that they never considered we might be capable of understanding their technology." Dr. Corey stepped forward next, displaying complex quantum equations. "Their entire communications network relies on a specific type of quantum entanglement. We've not only figured out how it works, we've already begun developing countermeasures." Maya's next words would set in motion a chain of events that would shock the Helix Alliance to its core. Let them come with their threats and their blockades. Humanity didn't survive and thrive on Earth by backing down from bullies. We survived by adapting, by turning our opponent's strength against them, and by never, ever giving up. The next morning, when High Commissioner Nexus appeared on the quantum display expecting Earth's surrender, Maya stood alone before the camera. Her response was just 3 words: "We decline, respectfully." The commissioner's crystalline form flashed a violent red. "Then you leave us no choice. The blockade begins now." As the transmission cut off, Maya turned to her team and smiled. "Now we show them what humanity can really do." Within hours, the first Alliance ships began appearing in orbit, their massive forms blocking out the stars. They expected to find a primitive civilization cowering in fear. Instead, they found humanity already preparing for a fight unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Helix Alliance's blockade materialized with frightening efficiency. Within 24 hours, over 300 vessels had taken position around Earth, their crystalline hulls forming a glittering web that space agencies dubbed the Iron Ring. Each ship was easily the size of Manhattan, their geometric forms refracting sunlight in ways that created spectacular and terrifying auroras visible even during daylight hours. Commander Maya Patel stood in the United Earth Council's underground command center, watching real-time footage of the blockade. Beside her, Admiral David Chen of the newly formed Earth Defense Force studied tactical displays with growing concern. They positioned themselves at precisely calculated intervals, he noted, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic projections. No gaps larger than 50 kilometers anywhere in the coverage. "That's exactly what we wanted them to do," Maya replied, her calm demeanor masking the intensity of her focus. "The more resources they commit to the blockade, the better." The Alliance's strategy was textbook intimidation. They had positioned their ships not just to prevent space travel, but to be constantly visible from Earth's surface, a perpetual reminder of humanity's supposed helplessness. Their first act had been to disable all satellite communications, replacing them with their own network that they generously allowed Earth to use for civilian purposes. What they didn't know was that Dr. Rivera and Dr. Corey had anticipated this move. In the 3 months since discovering the Alliance's true intentions, they had worked with a secret international team to develop what they called ghost satellites, quantum entanglement-based communications devices that were invisible to Alliance scanning technology. The conference room's doors slid open as Dr. Corey rushed in, his typically neat appearance disheveled from countless hours in the lab. "We've intercepted and decoded more of their internal communications," he announced, connecting his tablet to the main display. "They're getting nervous about something." The translated messages revealed a growing concern among the Alliance fleet. Earth's response to the blockade wasn't following any of their historical patterns, where other civilizations had either immediately surrendered or attempted futile military resistance. Humanity's reaction was puzzlingly calm. Too calm. High Commissioner Nexus's daily demands for Earth's surrender were met with polite diplomatic requests for clarification on increasingly obscure points of interstellar law. Maya had assembled a team of Earth's top lawyers who took turns engaging Alliance legal experts in endless debates about jurisdictional precedents and regulatory interpretations. Meanwhile, beneath the surface of this diplomatic dance, humanity was far from idle. In underground facilities across the globe, Dr. Rivera led teams in analyzing every scrap of data they could gather about Alliance technology. Each transmission, each scan, each flicker of their crystalline ships revealed new information. "Their entire technological framework is based on crystalline matrices," Dr. Rivera explained during a classified briefing. "It's elegant but fundamentally different from our silicon-based computing. They didn't just develop different technology. They developed it in a completely different direction." This fundamental difference proved to be crucial. The Alliance had spent millennia perfecting their crystalline technology, becoming so specialized that they had completely abandoned research into alternative approaches. They had no defense against methods they had never conceived of using. The first test of humanity's counter-strategy came when a small Alliance patrol detected unusual energy readings from the moon. They deployed their standard containment field, expecting to suppress whatever primitive technology the humans were attempting to use. Instead, their sensors went haywire, overwhelmed by what appeared to be thousands of identical energy signatures. Simple radio waves, Dr. Rivera explained to a grinning Admiral Chen, reflected and amplified in ways their crystalline sensors can't properly process. They've been focusing so long on quantum communications that they've forgotten the basics of electromagnetic radiation. The Alliance's response was to tighten the blockade further, adding another layer of ships to their formation. They expected this show of force to finally break humanity's resolve. Instead, it played directly into Earth's plans. Maya received the news during a late-night strategy session. They've committed 95% of their available ships to the blockade, she announced to the assembled leaders. Just as we predicted they would. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming displays of force. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. They're so convinced of their technological superiority that they never considered we might want their ships exactly where they are. Operation Lufo can begin on schedule. As if on cue, Dr. Corey burst into the room, his eyes wild with excitement. The quantum tunneling tests were successful, he announced. We can replicate what we observed in their communications technology. It's not exactly teleportation, but Maya held up her hand, smiling. Save the technical details, Doctor. Just tell me, can we do what we planned? Dr. Corey's grin was answer enough. Better than we planned. Much better. Above them, the Alliance ships maintained their perfect formation, their crews confident in their absolute control of the situation. They had no way of knowing that their impenetrable blockade was about to become the biggest liability in their civilization's history. Maya looked around the room at humanity's best and brightest, each chosen for their role in what would become either Earth's greatest triumph or its last stand. Send the signal, she ordered. Tell all teams. Operation Lufo begins at dawn. Operation Lufo began not with a bang, but with a series of seemingly innocuous civilian activities. All across Earth, people went about their daily lives while the Alliance ships loomed overhead. But in key locations around the globe, carefully orchestrated events were being set in motion. In the Atacama Desert, Dr. Isabella Reyes powered up what appeared to be a simple radio telescope array. In reality, it was the first of many quantum resonance amplifiers designed to interact with the crystalline structure of Alliance vessels. Signal synchronized, she reported through the Ghost satellite network. Ready for Phase 1. Similar confirmations came in from facilities in the Gobi Desert, the Australian outback, and the Sahara. Each site had been chosen for its remote location and optimal positioning relative to the blockade formation. The Alliance's own ships would serve as unwitting signal repeaters for what was to come. Admiral Chen watched from the command center as the global network came online. Remind me again why we're not worried about them detecting this, he asked Dr. Curry, who was monitoring quantum fluctuations across multiple displays. Because we're using their own technology against them in a way they never imagined possible, Dr. Curry explained. Their sensors are designed to detect quantum communications at specific frequencies. We're operating in what they consider noise, like trying to spot a specific whisper in a hurricane. The first phase of Operation Loophole was deceptively simple. Create a quantum interference pattern that would slowly, imperceptibly alter the crystalline matrices of the Alliance ships. Not enough to damage them, but enough to create microscopic imperfections in their supposedly perfect formation. Maya coordinated with the diplomatic team, keeping the Alliance representatives busy with a series of increasingly complex legal challenges. According to Galactic Code Section 947.3, one Earth lawyer droned, the definition of a blockade must account for non-linear spacetime variations. High Commissioner Nex's crystalline form flickered with barely contained frustration. They had expected Earth to break within days, not engage them in endless debates about regulatory minutiae. What they didn't realize was that every transmission, every response, every flicker of their crystalline technology provided Earth's scientists with more data to refine their approach. Dr. Rivera, working from a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, made a breakthrough that accelerated their timeline. The crystalline matrices aren't just their technology, he reported excitedly. It's their primary method of perceiving reality. They've evolved to process information through crystalline structures. That's why they can't conceive of alternatives. Literally. This insight proved crucial as Phase 2 of Operation Loophole began. Dr. Rice and her teams initiated what they called the quantum mirror, using the microscopic imperfections they'd created in the Alliance ships to reflect and amplify their own quantum signals back at them in ways their sensors couldn't properly process. The effects were subtle at first. Alliance crews reported minor discrepancies in their sensor readings, slight delays in their quantum communications. Their rigid hierarchy meant that each anomaly had to be reported up the chain of command, analyzed, and responded to according to strict protocols. The system that had made them so efficient was now slowing them down. But the true genius of Operation Loophole wasn't in its technical execution. It was in its psychological impact. Every malfunction made the Alliance commanders more uncertain, more hesitant. Their perfect formation began to show tiny gaps as ships adjusted positions to compensate for phantom sensor readings. "They're doing exactly what we predicted," Maya observed, watching the tactical display. "Their entire civilization is built on certainty and control. Take that away, and their response is to impose even more rigid control, which only makes them more vulnerable to our interference." Admiral Chen nodded appreciatively. "And the more they try to maintain their perfect formation, the more energy they have to pump through their crystalline systems, which creates more opportunities for us to exploit," Dr. Corey finished. "It's a feedback loop of their own making." The Alliance's growing confusion was evident in their communications. High Commissioner Nexus demanded explanations for the increasing anomalies, but their experts could find no cause. Their sensors showed nothing wrong, yet something was clearly affecting their ships. The possibility that humans, whom they considered primitives, could be responsible never occurred to them. As Phase 2 reached its peak, Dr. Rice reported an unexpected development. "The quantum interference patterns are propagating faster than we anticipated. The crystalline matrices are becoming more receptive to our signals. We could begin Phase 3 ahead of schedule." Maya considered this carefully. Accelerating the timeline was risky, but the Alliance's deteriorating confidence presented an opportunity they couldn't ignore. "How soon can we be ready?" "Give me 12 hours to recalibrate the quantum resonance network," Dr. Rice replied. "Then we can show them what humanity is really capable of." In orbit, the Alliance ships maintained their formation, their crews unaware that every action they took to maintain control was bringing them closer to the moment when that control would shatter completely. Phase 3 would demonstrate why humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to think beyond the obvious, to find solutions where others saw only obstacles. As the sun set on another day of the blockade, Maya gathered her team for final preparations. "Tomorrow," she announced, "we show the galaxy why you should never underestimate human ingenuity." Dawn broke over Earth's major cities with an unusual aurora dancing across the sky, a side effect of the quantum interference patterns now thoroughly embedded in the Alliance blockade. In the underground command center, Dr. Isabella Reyes made final adjustments to the quantum resonance network, while Dr. Corey ran last-minute simulations of Phase 3's expected outcomes. "Think of it like a house of cards," Dr. Corey explained to the assembled leadership team. The Alliance built their blockade on the assumption that their crystalline technology was impervious to interference. We've been subtly shifting the foundation, and now we're ready to pull the bottom card. Admiral Chen studied the holographic display showing the positions of Alliance vessels. Their formation is already showing signs of strain. "Look here and here," he pointed to subtle gaps in the blockade. "They're compensating for what they think are sensor malfunctions, but they're actually responding to our quantum echoes." Maya stepped forward, her expression focused. "Time to show them our full capabilities. Dr. Rice, you have a go for Phase 3. What happened next would be studied in military academies, both human and alien, for centuries to come." Dr. Rice activated the full quantum resonance network, and every Alliance ship in orbit became part of an elaborate quantum entanglement web of humanity's design. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The crystalline matrices that formed the core of Alliance technology began to resonate at frequencies their designers had never intended. Their ship's sensors, already confused by weeks of subtle interference, were suddenly overwhelmed by what appeared to be thousands of quantum signals bouncing between Earth and their own vessels. Their entire command and control structure relies on quantum communication through their crystalline networks, Dr. Rivera explained, monitoring the cascade of effects. By creating this resonance pattern, we're essentially forcing their technology to experience quantum superposition on a massive scale. In orbit, Alliance crews watched in horror as their sensor readings became quantum probability clouds. Their perfectly calibrated instruments showed their ships simultaneously in multiple positions, making it impossible to maintain their precise blockade formation. Every attempt to compensate only made the effect worse, as their own corrections were absorbed into the quantum resonance field and amplified. High Commissioner Nexus transmission cut through the chaos, their crystalline form shifting through colors so rapidly it was almost painful to watch. "What have you done?" they demanded. "This is impossible. Your species doesn't have the technology to affect our systems this way." Maya's response was calm and measured. "Commissioner, we try to explain that humanity approaches problems differently than your Alliance. You assumed our technological development would mirror yours. That assumption was your first mistake. Your second mistake," Dr. Curry added, "was giving us 3 months to study your technology, while you thought we were just preparing to surrender. We didn't spend that time trying to copy your methods. We spent it finding ways to turn them against you." The Alliance's rigid command structure, usually their greatest strength, became their greatest weakness. Ships couldn't maintain position without reliable sensor data. Commanders couldn't issue clear orders when their communications were tangled in quantum uncertainty. The perfect blockade began to break apart as individual vessels struggled to cope with what their systems were telling them. But humanity wasn't done. As the Alliance blockade fell into disarray, Dr. Rice initiated the final phase of their plan. The quantum resonance network shifted frequency, and suddenly every Alliance ship found its crystalline matrix briefly synchronize with Earth's quantum network. "Download complete," Dr. Rivera announced triumphantly. "We have their entire technical database, everything from ship schematics to their legal codes, all transferred through their own communications network while they were trying to sort out the quantum chaos." The Alliance's response was predictable. They attempted to restore order by forcing their ships to maintain formation through sheer numbers. But their technology, which they had relied on for millennia, was now working against them. Every correction they attempted was predicted and countered by Earth's quantum resonance network. Maya watched as the mighty blockade dissolved into confusion. "Send the message," she ordered. "Let's end this before anyone gets desperate enough to do something foolish." The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, using the Alliance's own communication protocols. "To all Alliance vessels, your blockade has failed. We now possess copies of your entire technical database, including the override codes for every ship in your fleet. We could disable your vessels with a single command, but we choose not to. Instead, we offer you a choice." She paused, letting the implications sink in before continuing. "You can either retreat and acknowledge Earth as a sovereign equal, or we can demonstrate just how completely we've compromised your systems. The choice is yours, but be aware, your ships are still trapped in our quantum resonance field. You have 1 hour to decide." High Commissioner Nexus's next transmission showed their crystalline form had settled into a dull, defeated gray. "How?" they asked simply. "How did you accomplish this?" Dr. Corey stepped forward to answer. "You evolved to think in crystalline patterns, seeing the universe through the lens of perfect order and structure. Humanity evolved to adapt, to find patterns in chaos, to think in ways that might seem impossible to you. We didn't beat you with superior technology. We beat you by thinking differently." As the Alliance fleet began their withdrawal, Maya turned to her team. "Send word to all Earth governments. The blockade is over, but our work is just beginning. We have their technology now, But more importantly, we've shown the galaxy something they never expected. Admiral Chen smiled. That humanity shouldn't be underestimated. No, Maya replied, watching the Alliance ships disappear into the darkness of space. That the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or military might. It's the ability to think beyond what others believe is possible. In the weeks following the Alliance's withdrawal, Earth experienced a transformation unlike anything in human history. The knowledge gained from the Alliance's technical database accelerated human development by centuries, but not in the way anyone had expected. Rather than simply copying Alliance technology, humanity began creating hybrid systems that combined crystalline quantum matrices with traditional human approaches. Dr. Rivera stood in the newly constructed Quantum Integration Center, watching as teams of scientists from every nation worked together to understand and improve upon the Alliance's technology. We're not just adapting their systems, he explained to a visiting Maya. We're completely reimagining how they work. The Alliance spent millennia perfecting one path. We're exploring thousands. The diplomatic landscape had shifted dramatically as well. High Commissioner Nexus had been replaced by a younger member of their species, High Commissioner Aurora, whose crystalline form displayed patterns never before seen in Alliance representatives. Signs of adaptation and change. Your species has taught us an uncomfortable but valuable lesson, Aurora admitted during their first diplomatic contact. The Alliance's greatest weakness wasn't our technology. It was our certainty that we had found the only correct path forward. Maya, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the galactic community, seized the opportunity. Then perhaps it's time for a new kind of partnership, not one based on dominance and resource extraction, but on genuine collaboration and mutual growth. The proposal she presented to the Alliance Council was revolutionary, a new framework for galactic cooperation that would encourage diversity in technological and cultural development rather than enforcing uniformity. To everyone's surprise, many younger Alliance members supported the idea, their crystalline forms showing patterns that indicated excitement and hope. Dr. Corey's team had made perhaps the most stunning breakthrough. By studying the interaction between human consciousness and crystalline quantum matrices, they discovered that the Alliance's rigid thinking wasn't just cultural. It was a direct result of their total reliance on crystalline technology. By introducing alternative processing methods, they could help the Alliance break free from their self-imposed limitations. It's like teaching someone who's only ever seen in black and white to perceive color, Dr. Rice explained during a presentation to the Joint Human Alliance Scientific Council. We're not replacing their technology. We're expanding what it can do by introducing new ways of thinking about it. The changes weren't limited to Earth and the Alliance. Other civilizations that had been dominated or threatened by the Alliance began reaching out to humanity, eager to learn how a supposedly primitive species had accomplished what they had thought impossible. Earth became a hub of galactic innovation, where different species came together to share ideas and explore new possibilities. Admiral Chen, overseeing the integration of Alliance technology into Earth's defense systems, found himself working closely with former adversaries. The irony, he noted during a joint training exercise, is that their attempt to blockade us ended up opening Earth to the galaxy in ways we never imagined possible. 1 year after the blockade's end, Earth hosted the first Galactic Innovation Summit. Representatives from hundreds of civilizations gathered to share their unique approaches to science, technology, and problem-solving. The Alliance, once the galaxy's self-appointed governor, participated as equals, their crystalline forms now displaying complex patterns that indicated they were finally learning to embrace uncertainty and change. Maya stood at the summit's opening ceremony, looking out at an audience that represented the incredible diversity of galactic life. The greatest discoveries, she began, don't come from believing we have all the answers. They come from being willing to ask new questions, to challenge our assumptions, and to recognize that every species, every civilization, has something unique to contribute to our shared future. In orbit, a new type of station was under construction. a joint project combining Alliance crystalline technology with human innovation. Its quantum matrices were designed to process information in ways neither humanity nor the Alliance had imagined possible on their own. It stood as a symbol of what could be accomplished when different perspectives came together. Dr. Rivera, working with a team of human and Alliance scientists, made one final observation that would reshape galactic society forever. The universe isn't a problem to be solved, he wrote in his widely distributed paper. It's a mystery to be explored, and the more different ways we have of looking at it, the more we'll discover. The Alliance's attempt to subjugate Earth had failed, but something far more valuable had emerged from that failure. A new understanding had been born, that true strength lies not in enforcing uniformity, but in embracing diversity. That the most powerful force in the universe isn't the ability to control and dominate, but the courage to learn and change. As Earth took its place among the stars, it carried this lesson forward. In a universe infinite in its complexity, there would always be new ways of thinking, new approaches to discover, and new frontiers to explore. The human spirit of innovation and adaptation, once seen as a primitive trait by the Alliance, had proven to be exactly what the galaxy needed to break free from its crystalline chains and embrace a future limited only by imagination itself.